G'day, welcome to MarkandSam After Work. Today I want to introduce a new member to the MarkandSam team. What I'm actually talking about is this rifle scope. This is the March Mini Genesis in the 4-40 by 52 rifle scope. It's something that March have done. We've actually tested both the big one, the Genesis, which is the 6-60, and we did a little shoot a little while ago with this one, not this one, but the same model in the 4-40. And listen, I really liked it. I really think, and I suppose there's a couple of things I'd say about it. One, I liked the principle of the scope. I like what they're trying to do. I like the innovation that March have shown and what they've done here. So it's something that I'd like to encourage in our industry. But also when I stopped and thought about what they've done, I see it suiting the marketplace. I see it suiting some of the people out there. Not all people by any means, but I think some people who want to go into the ELR side of things, which is what this is specifically designed for, I think it's going to suit some people. And yes, it's a reasonably expensive scope, but when you put it all together, it's not as expensive as you might think. Anyway, that was my thoughts about it. Because I know Stuart Elliott over here, who runs BRT, Stuart Nanny, and I sort of talk to them occasionally. I go through different bits and pieces about the target shooting world, and I use Stuart for some of that information. And I went through and spoke to Stuart about what they're up to and that sort of stuff, and said, listen, you know, I would be happy if they could do it. They'd have to do us a really good price. We're only on a mega budget here, but so they'd have to do us a super good price. It would be reflect to the fact that we'll be using it, so there's a bit of promotion and that side of things. But if they wanted to do that and a little bit of support in the channel, which is the other things going on there, because they certainly watch and are interested in what we're up to, then listen, it was an offer that I'd like to extend. You know, we're prepared to pay a certain amount to be able to do this because, like I said, I thought that I like what the company's done, and I think it's going to suit some people. He took it back to the team, which is a worldwide thing. The company's based over in Japan, in Dion, but it's actually a worldwide bunch of distributors and people that are all part of that company. Took it to them, and listen, they thought it was a good idea. They were all happy to support our channel, so that's what happened. It's been a few months in the making. This is actually more than just one of these. It is one of these. It's got the reticle and bits and pieces that you can get in these, but it's certainly suited to us. And on the other side of it, if you have a look in here, it actually has engraved MarkandSam After Work on it. So special scope for us. And yeah, very happy. Thank you very much from the guys at Dion and everyone in March. Thank you very much for supporting us, and I hope we do you justice. Okay, so what do I think is the benefit, or where it's going to work for other people? Why would I say the things I've just said? Well, for those people who don't understand what these scopes are, apart from a big expensive flash scope, I suppose it starts from the fact, or if you know about March at all, what they do. Most certainly when I knew them, what I know them of, is very high quality scopes, really used in bench rest target shooting. Really good glass, nice reticles and that sort of stuff, but I always felt we're a little more competition orientated in the bench rest side of things, and I presume F-class to a certain degree and things like that. But they do tactical scopes as well. But a couple of years ago, they went through with this design and trying to build an ELR scope, or building an ELR scope of a completely different concept. And the core of the concept is optical center. What do I mean by that? Well, this scope, well, I suppose the average tactical scope, you have the scope, you actually look through the center of the scope, but you look through a range in those lenses. You look through around the optical center, a little bit high, a little bit below, but you move around that to the point where in very good scopes, you'll still have nice clarity all the way through your range. In some scopes, you'll find that when you go all the way down or all the way up, you'll lose a bit of quality. And that's because you're actually getting outside of the perfect optical center. Well out of the outside. You're getting outside of even the clear optical center of those lenses. Well, this scope is set up to where it uses only the absolute perfect optical center. So the reticle is mounted in the center, it's all centered, and that's all you get to see through on this one. So the way you make it adjustable is, if you watch me dial this, they adjust the entire scope. So that's the maximum with the lens cap on. That's actually 230 minutes of elevation is what I just wound in there. And I could pull the dust cap off and get to 250 minutes of elevation. That's the concept, that's the core concept of this scope. It has, it actually has a framework. It holds the fairly simple, high quality lenses, reticle, all that sort of stuff in a solid tube in the middle here. That's all you look through. And then the turrets to adjust the whole scope. So you're always using the optical center. And because of that, you have different limits. You don't have no limits, but you have different limits than a normal scope. A normal scope only has around 120 minutes of elevation, or internal elevation, a little bit because of the internal structure of things inside there, but actually because of the lenses and the view you can get through the lenses in a long range scope. Once you go too far outside of that, you'll tend to lose quality. Well, you will lose quality at some stage. Because they don't have those limitations, then they simply have the physical limitations of the bell touch in the front or of your cheek rest position and all that side of things. This one I've actually set up in a rifle where I think this is probably likely to be used and where this becomes a real scenario. And I suppose I'll touch on why I think it's the bit where it's going to suit some people is this is a one-stop shop. You're looking at 230 minutes of elevation. There's a couple of things I could do to get even more than that. Those couple of things are, one, there's this little riser you can put in here which raises your scope up a little bit, so then you could actually tilt over even further. So that could be mounted on here. Not needed for this one, but it could be mounted on here. And you can obviously adjust cheek risers and that sort of stuff. There's other details going on with that. This still works, and I've checked it, where you've got good vision past your muzzle brake at 230. As you see, you're tilting your scope over, and once you go too far, then your vision is through your muzzle brake, then you can't see properly. You can generally see, there's some blurry image you can see, but it's going to be distorted because you're looking through your muzzle brake. So we've got to see where we're just seeing over the tip of it, and that's the situation we're in here. So like I said, a bit more room to move. You can put the space in there. Then you start to need to raise your cheek riser and that sort of stuff once you go too far. But this can do that. In any other format, if you buy still, you want a good quality scope if you're going to shoot ELR. So you've got a moderate budget you're spending there. To get a moderate scope to use all its elevation, you'll tend to be running expensive rings of some format. You're going to have rings and base and bits in combination to give you half of the internal elevation of your scope on a normal scope. So there's a reasonable amount of expense there with your scope as well. And then to get to like this is 230 minutes of elevation. You also need to have a elevation adder, whether that's a different adjustable set of rings, or that's the Night Force wedge, or that's the Charlie Tarak on the front of it. You're going to need one of those components to go there. Now, for a lot of us, we've already got most of that sort of stuff. We've got the scope and those sort of things. So whether it's the wedge or it's the big dog, the Charlie Tarak, that's the simple, straightforward step. But for people who are looking at buying another scope to do this sort of stuff, or venturing into it and really want to try and do it in one stop, this does it. No rings, no nothing. And actually, this can actually all set up on a normal 20 MOA base. Unlike the average scope, which has, you'll get, let's say it's got 120 minutes of internal elevation, it's got 60 up and 60 down, and then you have to cant it over to that place so you can get it all up. So you can just go from 0 to 100 yards up to 120 minutes of elevation. These scopes are set up where they have only a small bit of down and lots of up. So it means you can get you can whack them on a normal rifle, on a factory rifle of decent quality if you're going to do that sort of stuff, or just a rifle with a barrel, or all the combinations you've got there. But you don't need a special mount, even scope rail, to do this, and it doesn't need any rings at all. It comes with the system. So in the budget sense, all of a sudden this and I think there's a little over 250 minutes of elevation that's possible in here. so coming up to 90 mil of elevation that's possible in here. You can set that up really quite cheaply when you consider what you'd have to do to get that elevation in other formats. Now listen, it's not going to suit everybody, like I said, and I'm not suggesting it would, but as an option there, you've got some pretty nice features in that situation. Very good quality glass. This has got a nice reticle in it. I think there's some other ones that come with. I like the reticle in here. It's sort of suited to what I'd sort of spoken to Stuart about, but it certainly is available in these. This is MOA. They, I think, do quite commonly come in mil for the people who do mil. It is first focal plane, but the reticle is quite simple and clean. This one's up to 40 power, which I think is ideal, and I suppose I should touch on that conversation. The large Genesis is 6 to 60, and that has up to 400 minutes of elevation. Awesome, big scope. It certainly is the big brother to this fella. This one, to me, I prefer. It is the simple truth. I don't really like to use more than 30 power, but it's nice to have some up your sleeve. So with 4 to 40 power in this one, that's the right amount up my sleeve. You know, that's really good. It's more than most, and it stands out really well, and it's clear right through its range. It's only 52 versus 56, not much different, but that actually gives you a little more clearance in the front side of things. It's all a little more compact because of that, even with the sunshade on, and of course you can pull the sunshade off and make all this work as well. And the big deal actually is that 250 minutes of elevation, which is quite a bit less than the big Genesis. But in my opinion, from what I found and the way I set things up and that sort of stuff, that's about where it stops working. In my real sense, around 250, it depends on your rifle. 200 to 250 is when, to be able to look over your barrel and tilting your scope forward, you need to raise it up, and not just, actually a lot, not just to clear your bell, as you see we're close here, but it's this vision here. You put in longer barrels, bigger muzzle brakes, that start to get more on your road. Then you've got to tilt things up further, and then your head position starts to get in the wrong place. Now, adjustable butt cheek risers and butt pads and things can help that to a degree, but I think ideal is in around that 200 to 250, and we're talking long shots. More isn't better. You've got to go with what suits you. So I suppose, I mean, really, if you are setting up to do 300, 350 minute shots, you know, where you're up into that sort of the distance, either moving into ultra long range, then truthfully, the Charlie Tarak is the one that suits you. But if you're setting in that normal ELR stuff, so it depends on the rifle obviously, but the 2,000 to 3,000 in some of the stuff out to the 2 miles, and it depends on your elevation in the way of your altitude, all that sort of stuff, change what your shot is. But in your MOA, if you're in that place where 100 to 250 max is what you're really considering, then this, you know, the Night Force wedge is another one that goes in that place. But as a one-stop shop, with nothing more than a standard setup rifle, this is really capable of doing it. So listen, that's the reason I've got it. I want to, like I said, encourage the companies that are innovative and doing the right thing on that score. And in this little format here, I think it really works. So I'm very happy and thankful for March helping us out to get this one here. Thank you very much, guys. Like I said, I hope we do it justice. But yeah, just something to consider in the guys that are going in there. We will be using it periodically, like we use all of the good stuff over the channel. But I just wanted to introduce it and let you know why we're using it, what it's here for. Hope you like the video. We'll catch you next time.